right, Michelle, looks like we're all set to start.
Okay. Should I go ahead and call roll?
I'll announce the start of the meeting here. Welcome, everyone. Today is May 19th, 2021. Here for a special meeting for the Orange Township Board of Trustees. Call this meeting to order. Ms. Bonnie, if you could please call roll.
Trustee Grumbles.
Here.
Trustee Taranto. Here. And Trustee Rivers.
Here.
We're going to recess into our zoning hearing for the North Farms Condominiums LLC application 21-01. Ms. Bonnie?
I'm sorry. Yes, was that a motion? Do I need to call roll again?
I don't believe we need to.
Okay.
Mr. Griggs.
All you're doing is opening up the hearing, so you don't need a roll call.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So getting started here, I want to go over a couple of ground rules in the zoning hearing. When the board is ready for public comment, there will be an opportunity for members of the public to speak during the hearing. Statements made or written in any chat room will not serve as public comment. If you would like to speak, please unmute yourself, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Residents wishing to speak shall keep their comments limited to the merits of the application. Any personal attacks on the applicant, township officials, or residents will not be tolerated, and residents may lose their right to speak. The chair reserves the right to have residents muted who engage in personal attacks. I would also add that if comments are made consistent with what you're going to share, feel free to just come on and announce agreement with prior comments. They don't need to be reiterated in full. It'll help the meeting move along. With that, I'll turn over to Ms. Bonnie.
Okay, great. Thank you. I did provide a staff report to the board members, and I will go over that briefly. So that this project, the applicant is North Farms Development LLC. The site is located at the northeast corner of North Road and Shanahan Road. They are proposing to rezone the parcel from single-family plan residential district to a multifamily plan residential district to be known as the Reserve at North Farms. Jeff, if you can help me, I'm sorry, if you can help me mute the public for now during our presentation. Thank you. So following that, I just want to discuss our comprehensive land use plan was updated in 2018. This specific parcel is within the sub-area 13 of the comprehensive land use plan. The sub-area encourages plan office, plan commercial, or single family at 2 acres per unit. So that is the recommendations that are laid out in the comp plan. Upon staff's review, I did the report a little differently than usual. As this application was similarly heard last year, I wanted to compare the difference to what is proposed today. The overall layout is different. The density remain the same. The setbacks are slightly different. It's a larger setback on Shanahan Road, yet a smaller setback on North Road. However, I don't think it's substantially different. As far as the architectural elements go, one of the comments the public made in previous zoning commission meetings was to have variation in design of the buildings, and I did work with the applicant to provide that this evening. As far as open space, they're significantly over our requirements for open space, so at around 63%. Parking is around the same as the original application, proposed at 2.5 spaces per unit. Signage is in compliance with our zoning resolution. They are providing a 10-foot wide multi-use path along Shanahan Road and an 8-foot sidewalk along North Road. So this is a walkable community. The applicant is requesting 5 divergences, which is listed out in the staff report provided. And regional planning did recommend conditional approval of this rezoning request with a few, was subject to 3 conditions, and I believe all of those were addressed, as the fire department has reviewed it and they created a second access point off of North Road. And then Orange Township Zoning Commission also recommended approval with one modification, and that was to add additional architectural features to the side elevations, again, to enhance the variation in design, and the applicant did agree with that. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to the applicant for the presentation.
Hey, Michelle, am I allowed to share my screen? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, Michelle Bonney, other members of Orange Township. This is Joe Thomas with Metro Development. Appreciate your time this evening. I know most of you have already have seen, obviously, the location of the site, know exactly where the type of piece of ground we're going to present tonight. With me tonight is Todd Fairworth with Ferris Planning Design, who's the landscape architect, Jill Tangeman with Voorhees, Sater, Seymour and Pease, and I believe Steve Kuckler with Taft is also joining us. He's actually heading to Dayton, or maybe in Dayton already, for his daughter's playoff game for lacrosse. So good luck with he and his family on the playoff game for lacrosse. But again, as Michelle Bonney mentioned earlier, we have gone back through the process. Today, our application is different than what we presented previously. We are doing, our application is for sale condominiums. There is a building elevation I'll share with you later, but the significantly difference between what we presented earlier and what we have now is our condominiums are for sale. Average sales price is roughly $225,000 on the first floor unit and roughly $250,000 on the second floor unit. And we'll know more on the sales price as we get closer to construction. Just to go quickly through the slides, and Todd Ferris will be on in a second to go over the details of what has changed, what we added, what we subtracted. We obviously presented this original new application to regional planning. Then we submitted to the zoning commission in Orange Township. Had 2 meetings there, so there were some changes that took place during that process. So again, location, Shanahan and North Road. This is the last piece of the North Farm subdivision. We created the subdivision and rezoned this ground some years ago. There is a remaining piece of ground that's still left undeveloped, roughly 24 acres here on would be the northeast corner. Adjacent to us is future plans for Jennings Park and then the Evans Farms details. This is where I essentially will let Todd Ferris step in and start talking about the land plan itself and the type of landscaping features that we presented to Orange Township. So Todd, if you don't mind.
Yeah, good evening. This is Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design, 243 North 5th Street. Glad to be with you guys tonight. We had several comments from regional planning as well as from your board. Several of those centered on usable open space and how to develop that internally to the site. One of the things that we did on this was to, we had really wide mounds before, meaning the base was wider than needed to be. So what we did with that was decrease the width of the mounds. We still maintain the heights of those, which are 5 to 6 feet tall to keep the screening intact, but we created more flat ground around the site so that there was the ability for more internal activities. That allowed us to add a pathway around the pond and open spaces along North Road. I think one of the other major additions that we made to this property was the secondary access to the south. When we first came in with this, we had just a emergency access. The comments from the board were that might be putting too much traffic on that northern entry. So we added that secondary entry that comes in on the green to the south. And I think one of the other comments really related back both to the site plan and to the architecture. And that was how we presented the buildings to North Road and to Shanahan Road. The first plan was more linear, where the buildings really lined up with North Road. So all the views of the buildings were the same. We took advantage of modifying that and rotating buildings in this plan, varying the setbacks so you wouldn't have the same viewpoint along North Road. And it would also distract the views from these units into the existing single family homes to the west, which was another one of the comments that we had received. In addition to that modification, we also provided two alternative elevations for the buildings where we vary the front and the backs of those units to add more architectural detail. These are the 3D renderings of those. Where we've played with the gables and the roof masses on the fronts and the backs. The backs have become much more handsome. The fronts are still very well articulated, but we've added some details to those. And the final comment, or the one condition that we received from Planning Commission, was that the end elevations or the side elevations were lacking. In particular, if you looked at item 2 and 4 on this plan, that whole area, as Joe was mentioning, was devoid of windows in the back. We were able to locate windows on each side. Those are actually bedrooms, so it was a challenge, but we were able to figure out how to deal with that internally to get that to break up that facade to that, and added a stone water table around the entire elevation of the building to give that more architectural interest in response to the Planning Commission comments. Landscape-wise, the site is, as I mentioned a little earlier, is bounded by mounding around the entire property, not only to buffer the railroad tracks from this project, but also to buffer North Road and Shanahan as well. Those are very extensive mounding with evergreen and shade trees placed on those, which will have an effective screen from the street. I would venture to say that views to this site would be next to non-existent in 5 to 6 years, just based on the growth habits of the plant materials that we had picked on top of these mounds. And this would be similar to anything that you would see in the Dublin area or whatever, where they try to make the roadways a green roadway and all the housing behind it kind of disappear. Again, that's in regards to comments that we received from neighbors and their visibility and things like that. I think those are all the changes that we really made to the site plan and the architectural elevations. Joe?
Okay, Joe Thomas again, Metro Development. As Bonnie also mentioned earlier in her meeting notes, was the Orange Township Fire Department approval as part of the condition of regional planning. So we went back to Orange Township Fire Department. We actually gave them a set of engineering drawings that we had developed by Terrain Evolution. They looked at it with the turning radiuses that were provided to them as well, and they feel like the site plan is in compliance with their code. Obviously, upon final engineering, working with Delaware County engineers as well as Delco Water and Delaware County sanitary engineers, we'll have further details on the engineering plans that we'll share with the fire department as part of that final engineering and approval process. We also discussed with the Planning Commission the lighting aspect of the community itself. So we had a photometric plan provided that shows essentially zero light spilling over our property line edges. So not able to blow this up full size, but along the outside edges of this entire property, there's noted zeros, and all the lighting essentially is to light the internal part of the streets and around the clubhouse, in between the buildings at certain locations and keep our light spillage necessarily onto our site. There's elevation of the community center that'll be located on site. And then, as Todd mentioned earlier, the different elevations options for the actual community. We did commit during the zoning commission process with the board that we would work with Orange Township on our final plan approvals to offer two different types or options. We would have a type A option and a type B, necessary to vary the different type of architectural features throughout the site. And we'd worked hand in hand with the administration in Orange Township to pick individual building styles, each and every one throughout the site. More elevations of the building themselves. As Todd mentioned earlier, we varied the necessary backs and fronts of the buildings with different gables and different elements. Also added the stone water table around the sides and backs of the buildings, and then added the windows. So this is elevation type A and then elevation type B. More details on the units themselves. The first floor unit is 1,795 square feet. There's 2 bedrooms and 2 full baths. Of course, there's an owner's suite, and then they have separate bedrooms with a study, gourmet kitchen, and then a attached garage. The home above is 2,084 square feet. Again, this one has an owner's suite with a additional 2-bedroom option, or some of the actual buyers look to have a owner's suite bedroom and home office, which we've seen a lot of lately internally to a lot of these floor plans. In our last discussion, as far as developments in Southern Delaware County, more so in Olentangy School District, we always are concerned, and I believe trustees as well as zoning commission and township administrators are more concerned with the on these type of developments impact on schools. What we've determined, and Mr. Rafe, or Superintendent Rafe is here to discuss further details as far as the school impact. But this is a chart that is a summary from the Olentangy Local School District student potential analysis that they produced in December 2020. And I believe this is something that they have approved through the school board. So that's the chart, and I'll return to that in a second. But the other information as far as the impact of this property on school funding, and particularly for Olentangy School District. The existing North Farm single family currently property tax is roughly $1,439,000 annually. They currently have 183 students at an impact of roughly $2 million. Understand that not all the funding for the school district comes directly from property taxes. So to be fair on the analysis, roughly $1,388,000 comes from property taxes. The property tax distribution from North Farms currently is roughly $1,029,000. So there's a deficit from the two numbers of roughly $359,000. However, if the condominiums were built on the balance of acreage of the 24 acres located at this particular subdivision, there'd be approximately 22 students. Again, Mr. Rafe can go into more detail in a minute about this, but annual property tax of $813,744. Again, a tuition cost to educate the 22 students of $242,000. Again, not all the money comes from property taxes, so it's a cost of roughly $166,000. And then the property taxes from this particular development that would go to the school district would be $581,826 annually. So there'll be an excess of $414,000. Just to give a scenario as something similar, if a single family subdivision was built out in the 43 homes that we currently have approved on the site, there would be an estimated property tax of $199,000, be roughly 43 students in the school district at $11,000. So that's a cost of $473,000, which part of that property tax would be $326,000. And the property tax distribution for this if it was developed as single family, it'd be 142,000 with a school revenue loss of $183,651. Now, I know a lot of discussion has been about other developments in this area of North Farms. As I mentioned previously in our discussions with the zoning commission and as well as the trustees, we as Metro Development have been marketing this ground for a number of years. As everybody's aware, we sold most of the ground to MI and Rockford Homes. But from the start, neither MI or Rockford wanted this tract of ground, which was offered to them originally at the same sales prices that we sold them the ground adjacent to it. Their main concern was the access or the location, the proximity to the Shanahan Road railroad crossing and the railroad itself. So we made numerous contacts with both MI and Rockford in later years to see if they would want to develop this property. And you know, each and every time the request was no, of course. I've also reached out to Pulte Homes, Schottenstein Homes, Epcon Communities, and other developers that develop similar type of developments in Southern Delaware County. And I know Rockford is adjacent to the railroad tracks currently now developing their last 23 lots along North Road. Again, trying to, you know, essentially develop what was left of the North Farms single family subdivision. We asked Robert Yoakum or Bobby Yoakum about developing these last few acres. And then asked him, of course, what his current development process is, you know, south of this development. And they've only sold to date roughly at the, they released Section 9 in January 20th, 2020. Over the last 15 months, they have sold 13 of their homes, which the sales
Sorry, Joe.
Oh no, sorry. I was wondering if I was getting cut off.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
With a sales pace of roughly less than 1 sales per month, and which in that same time frame of success elsewhere in Southern Delaware County or through the entire Rockford portfolio, they've sold roughly 1.5 units per day. So they've gone from a sales volume of less than 1 per month on this particular site, and they went, you know, in the same time frame in other communities throughout Southern Delaware County and Central Ohio, they've sold 1.5 homes per day. So there's a dramatic difference, and it's essentially all related to the location of the railroad track. So this is essentially their plat, just to give you reference of exactly what's there on the site of the Rockford Home subdivision. And this is a chart exactly what their sales to date has gone through, and it gives you essentially the North Farms, the model type, the code, the elevation type, the buyer's name, closing date, and then the contract date, and then the average sales price. Again, interior pictures of our community center, which is to be used by the existing residents or the new residents of the North Farms condominiums. So they'll have internal gaming areas, a kitchen, a movie theater, an exercise facility. They'll have a little, basically a little gathering area as well as an office area or computer area for the residents. And so those are kind of the amenities that would provide inside the community center for the new home buyers in the condominiums. So I appreciate your time. I understand that everybody has, you know, probably heard in a lot of discussions about this community, a lot of efforts as far as the North Farm residents and contacting the trustees in Orange Township. We understand it's, you know, a difficult situation that everybody's in. We understand that everything was zoned originally for the 43 homes in this particular location. We also understand that, you know, as far as the developments go, we made our first effort to bring forth a multifamily type of process out there but we understood that a for rent product wasn't acceptable. So we came back to discuss a for sale product in the same location. The reason for the number of units is just kind of a placemaking atmosphere, from a standpoint of having a larger community center, a pool area, and all the walking trails and the amenities. We've got some seating areas and additional amenities in each pod located on the north and south of the site to make them feasible and economically feasible, not only for the development of, but for the residents to also maintain them financially. The pool, the clubhouse, and all the other amenities. The number of units is kind of the necessity of the type of development that we've tried to present here. So if Mr. or Superintendent Rafe, if you'd like to make some comments about the impact of the schools, I'd appreciate that. And then I'll turn it over for anybody else for questions. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I guess I better show myself. Thanks for the invitation, Joe, and opportunity to speak to the trustees. I concur with Joe's analysis of the financial impact. The reality for us is that any single family home development typically end up being a financial loser for us, just because of the number of students those homes tend to yield and the tax revenue that's generated from those homes. It takes about an $800,000 house to generate enough revenue to educate one child in Olentangy. Actually, Joe, you can revise your numbers, because actually we're up to about $11,800 per pupil at this point. So the disparity of what you presented is only bigger. I will tell you, I think this is the type of housing stock that I think is needed in our community. It's affordable. I actually live in a very similar community as to what's being presented here. There are a lot of families here that are now split families. So what we see is in these types of communities are the need for people that want to stay within our community and be close to their kids while they're going to school. An opportunity for those split families to remain in the district. So that kind of diversification of our housing stock is, I think, a good thing for our overall community. At this price point that Joe is presenting, I think it's will be a highly desirable asset for our community. I concur with his analysis of the impact on our schools. I do not believe that this will have a negative impact on our school district. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And I did like what was read about public participation. I may have to steal some of that for our board meetings for the future.
Mr. Thomas, do you have any more material from the applicant standpoint?
Joe, you're muted.
Sorry about that. This time it was me, not Michelle. So, no, thank you very much, Trustee Grumbles. Appreciate it. And I think we've presented our application and look forward to discussions.
In the original application, there was mention of a TIF. Is that still on the table, or has that been withdrawn?
We would entertain any kind of funding mechanism that would help traffic concerns in Orange Township. As we mentioned last time with the apartments, we don't have a concern of the necessary congestion that focuses directly around the North Farm subdivision, be it at Shanahan and North Road. We've made all the improvements as far as turn lanes and road widenings in that area, but we do understand there's congestion throughout Orange Township, as there is mostly in Central Ohio. So we would obviously welcome future discussions with Orange Township on how to participate in any type of discussion in adding funds to those different projects that Orange Town trustees feels is necessary to help those concerns with others at this time.
Okay, can I add to that, since that, you know, in the initial discussions with the developer on the potential of that, we did have some discussions about road improvement. I don't think we have issues per se on North Road, but we have significant issues on Shanahan Road, especially at drop off and dismissal times, you know, for Shanahan and even for the elementary schools and the high schools. So I'd be more than willing to participate in that kind of discussion. The road improvements to Shanahan Road would be a very good thing for our community.
All right, Ms. Taranto, do you have any, we're at the board comment and question phase. I know Trustee Rivers had a question. If you or Trustee Rivers have any other comments or questions, please ask.
I do not at this time.
Trustee Rivers, any additional questions or comments?
No, I do not have anything to add.
Okay, now we'll turn it over to, back to the applicant. If there's any, I think Mr. Rafe, as a applicant's guest there, if you, you spoke in response to Mr. Rivers, are there any other comments from either you, Mr. Thomas, or anyone else in response to that?
Yeah, we're you know, like I mentioned with Trustee Rivers, we'd be willing participants and discussing with roadway concerns in the township. You know, one main concern in our last discussion was the Shanahan Road front entry location to the middle school, as well as, you know, additional access to the elementary school and high school. And we'd be willing to participate in funding those necessary expansions with our TIF dollars if that's necessary. And I know that's a media concern of the access point there. So appreciate the bringing that up, Trustee Rivers.
Okay, I'm going to open it now to public comment. Ask that you raise your hand, and Ms. Bonnie, if you could recognize the speaker, unmute them, etc. If you're a participant, you want to speak, you want to raise your hand, should be under the participants tab at the bottom of your screen. Once you open that up, there are options to invite, unmute, and under the tab, there will be an option to click and raise your hand, and you'll be called on to speak. After your turn, please lower your hand. And then after we close public comments, we'll give Mr. Thomas and his folks a chance to respond to your concerns or comments at that time. Okay, Ms. Bonnie, I'll turn over to you and let you recognize the public comment.
Okay, I'm gonna have Jeff Beard help us, or me as well, but I think I can at least go with the raising the hand. So Jeff, I'll just state the name, and if you can help me unmute, that would be great. So I guess the first one is Serendra Lurie, and I apologize if I butcher anybody's name.
No, it's good. Thanks everyone giving me the opportunity to comment on this. And good evening, everyone. This is Surendra Talluri. Again, my address is 5259 Luren Drive, and it is again, it's opposite of the proposed community. So yes, I want to mention that, you know, the proposal definitely will impact my property and our community with the number of people, number of homes, and the traffic and quality of life. When we bought our home, actually, because we bought the home because it was a single family zoning area. And so now the developer coming in and they want to propose a multifamily because and they lose money if they do the single family. But here the thing they're mentioning that, oh, the school district will get more money on the taxes, but at the expense of the current community and my property value. So I want to protect, as a private investor in my own home, I want to protect my life of the quality of life and my investment in my current home. So I would request the board members to not to vote against this proposal because definitely it is an impact, but it is at the expense of the current homeowners in the North Farms community. Thank you.
Okay, next one, Hemant. We'll unmute you and,
Yeah.
yep,
Hey,
hello.
thank you. Thank you all. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hemant Kumar Divan. I live at 5593 Mercia Street, Louis Center. And again, initial proposal was to have a multi-family, a single family home, and then it was converted to an apartment, and now it is proposed to have a condominiums. But the number of units from apartments to condominiums are same, 144 units. My concern here is this we were told that this condos will be sold to individual party. What is the guarantee that it will be sold to an individual party? Why not as a company, a company can buy all the condos and rent it out. Then it's going to be a rental unit like any other apartment. That's one of my concern. The second is on the number of students. I appreciate Superintendent Mark spoke about that, but I did reach out to Mark yesterday and got some information, which I forwarded to the trustees as well this morning or yesterday evening, if I'm not wrong. So the number of students is not 22 students from a 144 double bedroom and triple bedroom units. It is more than that. Based on the numbers, I got it for a couple of apartments. And on the North Farms, where they have sold it, like there are around 23 lots, out of which 16 are sold and 6 are yet to be sold. So there are people who are interested in those railway side single family homes as well. So I appreciate trustees to consider this and make sure that you protect our entire community and not approve for the multifamily homes. Thank you.
Okay, next would be Jai Thar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jai Thar. I'm from 5740 Somersworth Loop. My concern for this rezoning is there are multiple concerns. First up is when we bought the property, we were told there are going to be only single family homes around it. Now, it's changing to multifamily. It's not our job or the township's job to protect the financial interest of the developer. That's a risk that the developer takes, and they should be able to bear it. So that is one concern. The second concern, again, for the number of students that have been mentioned. We are saying that for 43 single family homes, there'll be 43 students. But for 144 condominiums, there's only going to be 22 students. That number does not look realistic in any way to me. So I think the number of students will be much higher than what is proposed over here. The third concern is about the apartments which will get rented out by the owners. There is always going to be that possibility. And we don't have any control on the background checks of who the renters are going to be in, right? So there's a chance of increased crime rate for the area as well. And the fourth one is, again, the traffic density as well as the overall infrastructure that is going to be stressed out. One of them is the AEP, where we have seen numerous outages due to the load of the area of the residents already right now. So with all the concerns, I would like to request the trustees to not support this rezoning. I myself don't support this rezoning as well. Thank you.
Okay, Andy Puetz, I'm sorry.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Andy Pitts. My wife, Amber, our 4-year-old daughter, Lucy, and I live at 5288 Loudon Drive. During some of the prior zoning commission meetings, the developer exhibited letters from several home builders, including, again, tonight, saying that there was not interest in the property. However, this was likely at an undisclosed price. I doubt it was $1. Developments have sold homes all along these tracks. We've talked about those in previous meetings. And most relevant, obviously, is the Rockford plot directly south of this lot, which as of yesterday, I stopped by the sales office and they have sold 15 of the 22 lots. Entrepreneurship has an inherent risk. Profit is not guaranteed. It's not the obligation of the residents who've invested our livelihoods, nor the Orange Township and the elected board to rezone this plot for the developer's profit, especially at the expense of the existing families in our community. I can appreciate Mr. Rafe's passion to find some funding for schools. We are not opposed to multifamily development for the township's growth. We are against it right here and reversing what was here present when we invested our lives in this community. So I think the question at the end of the day here is, is the value of the community's opinion greater than the profit of a business? Thank you very much.
I don't see anybody else's hands up, and I know if it might not be the easiest to see that part of the function on Zoom, but if you do want to unmute yourself, just please state your name and address so we know who's talking.
Hey, Michelle, Steve Cohen, 1370 Yep. Street. Andy said a lot what I was going to say, but I also wanted to reiterate that we've never been of the view that we wanted ownership of condos in that specific site. We've always been single family homes, less density and more green area. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, this is Harish and I live in 5683 Dorrington Street. I think Andy has a good point that, we are not against multifamily, and I know school superintendent also is looking at the numbers, but only about this parcel being multifamily is a concern. We, as a school, as a township and school district, we should encourage multifamily, which generates more money, but especially not this parcel just in between several, single family homes. So that we are opposing here. So I'm sure there must be a lot of parcels that we can build multifamilies. So I would recommend, I would suggest, or I would request board members to oppose this rezoning today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pradeep Chandanam. I live in 5575 Somerset Loop. I reiterate the same thing what my other friends have said. So please, trustees, I request personally, please consider our investment, our security, our kids' education. And then I request you to reconsider this and oppose this. Thank you so much.
Are there any other public comments?
Yeah, I think we have a handful more now that I think Jeff did message
there we go. Yep, I see that.
about, yep. So Cheryl, if you want to go next, I think Pradeep just went. No, you're still on mute. Let me see if I can unmute you on my end.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yep. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay. Yes, hi, my name is Cheryl Everett, and I live at 5255 Loudon Drive. My property is directly across the street from where this multifamily is going to be put in. And I just would like to say and kind of reiterate what everyone else has said. We've invested a lot of money into our properties. I have a desire to do a lot of work to the back of my property and make it, you know, just something very family oriented, and having a condominium across the street. Just, you know, I feel like we were promised one thing moving into this area, knowing that the space behind us would be single family homes. And it's just very disheartening that after the investment we've put into these properties, you know, I feel like our neighborhood's being ignored. We're not being reached out to by the company that wants to put these in. And it would just, in my opinion, bring down the value of my home. And I want to, you know, live here forever and make this my forever home. But I feel like putting something like that across the street is going to be detrimental to, you know, what we look forward to as a neighborhood in general. So thank you.
Maheshkhali.
Hi, this is maheshkhali. I live at 5284 Loudon Drive, which is right across the proposed parcel. So I echo what all my friends and the neighborhood already said, and I don't want to reiterate or talk about the numbers, the student numbers, which don't seem any scientific or which seem illogical. But my only question is it township's responsibility to help a business make a better deal, or why are we actually doing this at the expense of the people in the neighborhood? I wish all the trustees help us here again and get us out of it. Thank you.
Vshawl, you want to go next? I'm sorry, the name on here is Vishal, so I apologize if I said that wrong, but Vishal, if you want to unmute yourself, your hand is raised.
Hi, sorry, there were some issues. So my response is same as my neighbors there. So that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Koteshwar Pathuri.
Hello, good evening to all of you. My name is Koteshwar Pathuri. I live at 1205 Lennox Court. My concern is looking at the rate of growth that is happening in the Lewis Center and the number of new houses that are being built. So the argument of not getting a lot of buyers across the homes that are being built near the railroad crossings and all that stuff doesn't seem to be a plausible or feasible argument. So there are some other communities in the Lewis Center area where people bought the houses even very close to the railroad crossing. So I would really request the trustees look into that matter and see if you can stop these arrangements. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else that wants to have any public comment?
Hi, this is Prem. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, this is Prem Sabaya. I live in 5670 Somersworth Loop in the North Farms. So I did send out my objections over email to the trustees earlier today. Basically, I don't see this rezoning application any materially different from what was done with the apartments, application earlier. So I think basically it's, overall it's again a multifamily application, right? That's the way I see it, and the impacts which we have gone in detail, in this call as well as the earlier application is the same. So I believe the outcome should also be the same. We should disapprove this rezoning application for what it's worth, and save the folks in the community from trouble and their property values going down. Thank you.
Leah Stern, if I see your hand raised. I think you were.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you, Leah. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi, my name's Leah. I'm at 5372 Middlebury Loop. So safety is something that's been mentioned many times, but I'm going to kind of approach it from a different angle. I'm on the Nextdoor app, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, and multiple times a month, I see posts from different people who live in complexes where many cars are parked inside, like condo and multifamily living complexes, for example. So where there are some garages, but also lots of cars are parked outside. So unlike single family homes where every car has a garage protecting their car, like we have in our neighborhood. Anyhow, the posts that I see are that people posting that they saw, or the next morning they realized that someone came to the parking lot and was checking cars for ones that were unlocked. If valuables were in sight, their cars have been broken into, things like that. So put something like that right across the street or right behind a nice neighborhood like North Farms. And where do you think they're going to go and try to stop by next when they're in the area? So we've avoided these types of situations so far because we aren't an ideal place for people to hit up, but put us next to an area where there's lots of cars that are going to be parked outside, and we suddenly become very convenient for them to wander through our neighborhood. So what I don't want is my 5-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my soon-to-be newborn waking up to someone trying to break into cars in their neighborhood or nearby, in the neighborhood, in the house that we promise that they're very safe in every night when we put them to sleep. So again, I'm just kind of approaching it from a safety angle and something that I hope people please take into consideration.
Anyone else?
Hey, Michelle, Steve Cohen. I want to say one more thing. I'm actually sitting in my backyard. I'm hoping I can get the video going. Oh, it's not working.
I
Sorry.
see you, Steve. Yeah.
Okay. I can't see you guys, but just to give you guys, because sometimes a diagram doesn't do justice. It's literally across the street from a bunch of our homes. And that's North Road right there. It's right there. It's in our backyard. And sometimes we just feel like a diagram or a picture doesn't do it justice. So I just wanted to show that real quick for everyone to have a quick view of like in real life what we're all dealing with. Thank you.
All right, I think we're wrapping up, but does anyone have any other comments to share?
Yep, this is Surendra Thaluri. Can I offer one more comment?
Sure.
Yes, so I would like to ask the trustees and also what is the process, because the developer making changes but coming back again with the multifamily homes, this not from community, we are busy lives, even though all this pandemic because everything is going on. I would like to ask actually how many times we are going to put this through all the community through this highest process, because it is wearing out. For us to keep on attending it and keep on sending our comments and objections, concerns, and etc. But I want to, if it is possible, because as we mentioned many number of times, this property, the proposal is not acceptable to our community and particularly personally also. I would like to request if there is any process that we can deny this permanently not coming back, because the way it is going on, it is wearing out the community. We have all these busy lives, and with the pandemic is going on, it is causing a lot of stress and worriness. Just I want the trustees consider this and denying this application, and also if it is possible to prevent the subsequent coming with the small changes but going through the same process. Thank you.
Okay, and just to reiterate, all the public comments that we received in writing via email were passed along to the board members. So we appreciate everybody sharing their concerns. I think Trustee Grumbles, if you want to do one final call, and then
Yeah, last call here for public comment. If you'd like to say anything, feel free to unmute or raise your hand. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comment now. And I want to give the applicant a chance to respond to the concerns and comments of the residents. Mr. Thomas?
Excuse me, Ben, if I can interrupt there. Leah Stern does have her hand up.
Yes, she already commented, I believe.
Okay, I didn't know if that hand meant she had another comment.
Leah, did you have any other comments? Usually I don't.
Hand is down.
Okay, thanks.
Can you mute Jill Tingerman as well, please? I know she's not speaking, but I just want to make sure no unintended noise before we turn over to Mr. Thomas. And
I think everybody's muted, yes.
Are you ready?
Sir.
Okay. Again, Joe Thomas, Metro Development. I do appreciate everybody's comments. I understand this is a difficult situation. I understand that the homeowners in North Farms have had many concerns about any type of different type of development in the North Farms subdivision, you know, and in particular this corner of the subdivision along North Road and Shanahan. Unfortunately, I am in the housing business. Really no other opportunity as far as you know, developments for this ground. We felt like we've done our efforts to reach out to other builders to build product of single family houses on this development in particular. We have not necessarily made it a price issue with other home builders per se. You know, our negotiations with Rockford and MI and Pulte and Epcon and Schottenstein is more so, would single family homes be something that they could build on these particular lots in this location and actually be able to sell them to individual homeowners. MI's immediate concern, and this dates back to 2017, that was not a desirable location for single family homes. And this is obviously after that we zoned this property, after we extended sewer from Olentangy High School and Olentangy Crossing. We essentially brought the sewer a half mile. We brought water lines a couple thousand feet. You know, we made improvements to North Road and Shanahan Road. We contributed monies to the county engineer for other area traffic improvements. So we've done a lot of not only infrastructure development to allow sewer for these homes and these residents that live here as part of our process. We've also done it with water lines. We've also, you know, added value to the entire area as far as the development itself, because of it's necessarily the sewer lines and the water lines, the roadway developments. Again, you know, what I presented to you this evening is letters from MI, letters from Rockford. Again, Rockford has only sold, and I think everybody has mentioned this in their testimony or summary, that it's been 15 homes on 23 lots. They've been there over 18 months in the sales process on trying to sell these lots. Again, current sales in Central Ohio, and especially in Rockford's portfolio, is 1.5 homes per day. And they've essentially sold 1 home per month at this location. Now, Rockford's location is further south and not additionally a proximity to the crossing at Shanahan and the railroad. So there is some difference in that location. You know, the difference in it, of course, is the location of the crossing so much closer to this location than Rockford. So be it that as may, We are home builders. We are developers of property for home builders. We believe there's a necessity in Delaware County and Orange Township for additional homes. We don't know if it's all traditionally going to be single family in Delaware County that's necessary, but there is need for condominiums and for this price point of type of condominiums in Orange Township. So essentially to answer, far as the concerns of the student impact of this area, I think we've answered that, and we've had Superintendent Rafe to verify or validate those concerns. At 144 condominium units, we have essentially 22 students. And again, that is the necessary. It's been studied throughout the township and studied throughout Southern Delaware County and studied throughout Olentangy Local School District. And this chart simply shows you that, attached condominiums, basically rate of number of students per household is 0.15. So you take that times 144 students, and that's 22 students. So these are a summary of the entire Olentangy Local School District. And it's a summary of the entire housing and what the yields are of each and every type of housing, from single family to apartments to detached condos and so on and so forth. So I believe we exhausted every effort to prove to the group that the efforts of a multifamily condominium subdivision will have necessarily less impact than a traditional single family. So I think I've answered that question. Rentals was another question of a number of concerns on the residents in that area. These are for sale condominiums. Again, the average sales price for the first floor is $225,000 and $250,000. And the reason that we believe these type of condominiums and that price point would be effective at this location, as I mentioned earlier in prior testimony and other hearings that we had in Orange Township, is yes, we agree there's a number of subdivisions that are located along the railroad tracks. We also agree that there's a number of people that live currently in those homes along the railroad tracks. However, those homes, and a lot of those homes, were built and sold during a time frame when a house in Southern Delaware County was approximately $225,000. So in order for a family to buy a home, invest in a home in that particular area, we believe the price point needs to be less than what you would have in average in single family home pricing in Southern Delaware County now, in excess of $400,000, in order to have housing built along that particular location. Condominiums are different in nature, that a lot of the amenities per se are interior to the clubhouse, interior to their own units, different lifestyle as far as what their expectation is on the exterior of the unit in the area. They have less expectation of necessary outdoor noise or influences that would impact them interior wise. So a condominium would be a product here that'd be very well received as far as sales and new families or actually new buyers in this particular area. So that would probably answer as far as the product and why we're there. A lot of the residents are concerned about their values on their properties in North Farms. We do a lot of development in Central Ohio. We do a lot of development in Southern Delaware County. There's a lot of mixed use developments that have multifamily, single family, multifamily condominiums and single family of proximity to each other. And there's been no evidence of negative impact on existing single family homes on property values. There is usually the unknown of what is going to happen in the future in areas as far as Southern Delaware County, because there is properties that are still yet to be developed. A lot of times that is a larger question, and sometimes will affect the sales of homes in Delaware County, is what's in proximity. However, knowing that there'll be condominiums in this area, knowing that, as far as this subdivision possibly being condominiums, there should be, or there will be, no negative sales value. The traffic was another concern. As I mentioned earlier, we'd be willing to participate in the TIF to help out what was traffic that's of concern further to the west of us on Shanahan Road. Again, we've mitigated our traffic on North Road and Shanahan Road. We've obviously had this approved as far as the number of units, condominium mix by Delaware County engineers, as far as the impact on the local roadways and as far as roadways that are outside of just North Farms. They look at Lewis Center in 23, Shanahan in 23, North Road and Lewis Center Road. So there's other major intersections that they review and see if there's other mitigating circumstances that we need to take care of. Again, it was approved by the Delaware County engineer. Again, like when people were saying they shouldn't get this approved because of at risk for us and our profits, understand everybody's concern. You know, like I mentioned earlier, and I hate to be redundant, but we are a home builder. We build housing throughout Central Ohio. You know, there is an overwhelming need for additional housing. Probably there's either an article in the newspaper or something on the news every day about the lack of housing across the nation, lack of housing in Central Ohio, and lack of housing built in Southern Delaware County. So this will add to the overall inventory of housing that's available. The lack of housing not only affects each and every one of the new home buyers, but for instance, if you have an existing home buyer that wants to sell their home, but then ultimately they will also be looking for a new home to move into, there's that overwhelming concern that there will no longer be housing in anything affordable in the future for younger adults in Delaware County to find housing because of the lack of overall housing. The more, I guess, from a standpoint, one comment was about less density and more green area. We understand that this is a product that is 6 units to the acre. However, we have more green space in our 23 or 24 acres here at North Road, and a percentage wise than any other single family subdivision located on North Road. Again, some of the comments were about why not multifamily or condominiums elsewhere in the township. Again, Delaware County needs more housing everywhere in Delaware County and in Orange Township. It's not just is condominiums appropriate along 23. Condominiums should be appropriate almost anywhere in the township that has these type of, overwhelming circumstance of the railroad tracks, the Jennings Park with the higher lights that they're going to be bringing to the area, and so on and so forth. Security came up a number of times, and security not only of the area, but of individual homes across the street. These will be for sale product. These will be homeowners. They will have a professional condominium property manager that will take care of the exterior of the houses. The property managers also take care of any concerns that the residents have of security issues and security issues of concerns that the exterior of the buildings themselves, the exterior of the clubhouse, the interior of the clubhouse, the pool area. So understand that there's a higher level of oversight in the condominium, and particularly with a professional property management company to overtake those risks. We manage and work with a lot of other condominiums throughout Central Ohio. We work with the condominium associations. We also work with the management companies, and always working together as a group within a condominium as far as, understanding what the security levels are of the community itself. Some communities opt to put in additional cameras to offer additional level of security. If that's a concern of the area residents and North Farms that we need to provide that in this community, we obviously look to undertake that as far as that added level of security to offer, if there's a need or a desire for additional protection as far as, off-duty police officers to patrol the area. That's another item that we do within condominiums. The condominium association themselves, they hire additional, off-duty police officers to necessarily do security at like peak hours on weekends. Necessarily they patrol the community if there is an issue of, or a thought or a threat of issue. So that's another area that we can address. Trying to think if there's anything else. But I guess the overwhelming discussions again is the traffic in area. We think we've mitigated that. Students in the Olentangy Local School District, we address that with the number of students and the financial impact we have. We think I believe we answered the property value question and then the security question area. And if there's anything else the board felt was a question by the residents on tonight's hearing, I'd be more willing to understand what we can do as a company to offer additional levels of understanding what it can be, how we can help the community with additional security measures, traffic impact measures, property values information. We work day to day with appraisers, so we can, obviously help residents understand that there's not a negative impact on property values of condominiums directly opposed to single families. So there's that level. AEP infrastructure was a concern of others, and we work with new developments, every day with AEP on infrastructure and how to improve infrastructure. So we believe that's another item that we can be helpful with as well. So I appreciate it and look for any other insight from the board. Thank you.
All right. Before addressing any comments from Mr. Thomas, I want to respond to one of the resident comments directed to the board about the zoning process and why people are allowed to submit applications and things of that nature. And I would ask, we have our counsel for our zoning department on the call here, Mr. Pete Griggs. I'm going to take a swing at this, and if I am off base, feel free to jump in and course correct here, Pete. But ultimately, it's a statutory process that they apply, and if they meet certain criteria, we're required to hear the application and go through a process that I alluded to the last meeting for this parcel. And that's the way the process works. It goes through an application, it goes through our commission, and then it comes to the board. And so, there is a real inability for us to not allow for that to take place and to restrict that process. Mr. Griggs, if you want to correct or add anything to clean that up, feel free.
Trustee Grumbles, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's a statutory process, and a property owner has the right to have his property zoned a certain way, and there's nothing we can do to limit or make that decision permanent. But you summed it up well.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from Trustee Taranto, Trustee Rivers?
No, I have no comments. Thank you.
I'll just add that it is a statutory process. And as a board member, I appreciate all the comments and concerns from the residents. But there is a legal process, and as a board, that has to be looked at and respected. And with this applicant, it has gone through the process of going through regional planning and our zoning commission, and both have approved.
Okay. I've got a couple options here from a resolution standpoint. And Mr. Griggs, I know the prior zoning meetings, we've started and read and taken a vote on those. Is there a recommended course of action in order to determine prior to doing that which one I should read, or would you prefer I read both?
No, I don't think you need to read the resolutions themselves. I think right now it's just the matters before the board, and they need to have a discussion as to which resolution they would like to adopt. So there's three resolutions that have been prepared, and those are the three courses of action under the statute that the board is allowed to make. One would be to just simply approve the zoning commission recommendation. The second option would be to approve the zoning commission recommendation and alter that if the board wanted to change anything. The third option would be to deny the recommendation of the zoning commission, which would be to approve. So if you deny the recommendation of the zoning commission, you would be denying the application and rezoning. So really, it's just before the board, and the board needs to have a discussion as to, which one they feel is appropriate at this point in time.
I agree with Mark Rafe in that we absolutely need more diverse housing. I believe we've accomplished that in the overlay district. In this particular area, as far as our comprehensive use plan, it recommends the single family housing and zone that. So I recommend to deny the application.
Trustee Rivers, any comments?
No, I have nothing to add.
My comments are consistent with those made. I understand the need, but I do not want to disrupt our comprehensive plan at this time, and I believe that the overlay and areas we've set in place provide a great opportunity for this type of housing. In addition, the number of divergences I'm not comfortable with in this case. Mr. Griggs, I'm looking at the 3 resolutions I received, and 2 of them appear to be the exact same verbiage.
So they're slightly different, those 2 that you're looking at, but based upon the comments so far from the board, if the board is wanting to deny the recommendation, someone would need to make a motion to adopt the resolution to deny the recommendation of approval with the modifications of the zoning commission. They would need to read that title in that resolution that's before you.
Okay.
So that motion.
Yep.
I apologize. Go ahead.
Ready to go, Mr. Griggs?
Yes, I think we're good.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-175 to deny the recommendation of approval with modifications of the zoning commission as a zoning application ZON 21-01 of North Farms Condominiums LLC for the Reserve at North Farms multifamily planned residential district.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto,
Yes.
and Trustee Rivers.
No.
All right, that's all we have on the agenda this evening.
Okay. Close the zoning hearing. Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-176, meeting adjournment.
I think we need a second, correct?
Correct.
Second?
Okay, trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
trustee Taranto, and trustee Rivers.
Yes.
All right.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for your
Good night.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.